almost every business I know at the minute is having some kind of major restructure.
I'm now the mascot for change when it comes to this particular scenario, because regardless of what you think about your incoming leader, change is change. And I feel like our one-on-ones are neck level as well. So I'm quietly confident that our one-on-ones are going to be very different.
I think crucial, really demonstrate value as a leader, that if they give you an action that you follow it through for them.
When you go through a change, the first thing to drop off is quality, because people are just trying to hit the ground running.
It's really important when you're setting up those first one-on-ones to include that. I like that so much, I wrote it down. Welcome to the Disrupt Leaders Podcast, episode 10. We finally made it, Jules. Not only did we make it, we got merch. The Drip Out Leaders Podcast, episode 1, maybe? I don't know. What do you reckon?
Yeah, 100%. If you're thinking this looks cool, I wish we could show you the back, because that's party on the back. Business out front, party on the back.
100%. We should mull it just quietly. No, but a very good episode today. I'm super excited for this one, Jules, because we're actually delivering on one of our core promises from our very first episode. We said in our first episode, one of the things that we were going to do, the reason that people should listen to us, is because we live it. We live it, we breathe it. We are leaders, frontline leaders. We're in the business. And today's topic is super, super topical. Jules, tell the people what we've got for them today.
So Bill and I, in our day-to-day life as leaders, we've gone through a bit of a restructure. So we're getting completely brand new teams from scratch. So what we want to do today is walk you through, or talk you through, what we want to do over the next few weeks with our new teams. What are the key things we want to accomplish with our teams over the next few weeks? And so anyone who's in the same position, and you've probably gone through a restructure, you've just got a new team at your workplace and you're thinking, what do I do next? How do I build this structure again from scratch? We've got you, and we've got tips and tricks you can follow.
Yeah. And look, I think this is very topical. Like, obviously, like, our business is going through a little bit of a restructure. They're moving a few bits and pieces around, but I don't think like that doesn't narrow it down for listeners to who we work for, because almost every business I know at the minute is having some kind of major restructure, especially a lot of contact centers, especially a lot of like the finance sector, telco sector, all those kind of things are having big restructures. And so chances are, if it's not happened to you already, it might happen soon. And so I think a very good first episode. Now, obviously, the plan for today is we're going to talk you through like our steps, what we did in the week where we found out leading into the week where we transitioned this week. But what I think is really important is to talk about what our intentions are, first of all. What are we really trying to achieve? What is the long-term vision? So, Jules, I'll throw over to you. Why do you think it's important when you take over a new team to start with that thought before you define any of your actions?
We'll go into more the next episode, because we're reading a fantastic book that is going to shed more light on it, the Simon Sinek Start With Why. So we'll wait for that episode to really delve into why. But the other thing as well is, it's for me, I've always led and worked through intentions. I always think to myself, my intentions need to be clear with the actions I do, right? So like when I'm talking to my people, when I'm, around people in the business, they need to really understand my intentions. And my intentions are usually, I want to be there for people, and I want to show them that I'm genuine and caring, and I really walk the walk with the things I say as well. So it's really important that when you do get a new team like we're in, and if those are your values, what are your values might be, you straight away start on putting in actions and behaviors that are going to be representative of the values that you live and breathe.
Yeah, no, you're exactly correct. Now, to go through that as well, the reason I think intentions are really important to add on what you're saying there is, imagine you go to the airport, you jump on a plane, you get on the plane, takes off and starts flying, and then the pilot decides where he's going to go. Probably not a flight that you necessarily want to get on unless you're on some kind of like hopeful wish that it will be a destination like Miami or something like that. But chances are you're not going to get on that plane. You want to know where the destination is before you get on the plane.
Yeah.
And I think that's very relevant in our work lives, not just for us, like not for me, but for my team. Like when I take over a new team, I think it's really important for them to know what we're trying to achieve, because that context of why we're doing the things that we're doing, why was there a change in the first place, is going to just alleviate a lot of that discomfort. People don't like change. Inevitably, people do not like it. As much as the people who are getting the team might be excited to get with me, they might be excited to have all the vibes that are going on. At the end of the day, they would probably still prefer to stay with their old leader, or as comfortable, where they knew what was going on, knew how things worked, like they had that constant. And so I think it's really important in those first few sessions just to give that vision so that at least they can understand what's going on and what's caused all of that change. Now, Jules, obviously talking of the why, your why at the moment is going to be a little bit different than mine. Like your vision, your goal is a little different to mine, because you've taken over quite different teams. So
Mm.
I have taken over a very experienced team, a team that are much more experienced than me. They're used to having a leader who is also significantly more knowledgeable and experienced
Mm.
than me. And so for them, it's a bit of a culture shock. Whereas you've taken over a lot of people that you have managed before, some you haven't, but know in the office. So what's
Mhm.
your vision? What are you trying to achieve? What are you looking to get out of it? What's the why for Team Jules this week?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head a little bit before around they might like their previous leader or they might like the way things have been done previously.
I mean, you are getting some
And
people
so
that
I
came from my team. So
yeah,
they
correct.
probably
Yeah, yeah,
prefer their previous leader, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, oh, yeah, 100%. I get that for sure. I've big shoes to fill, so to speak.
Massive dog, massive.
So I get that completely, and I'm representative of change.
Mm,
I'm now the mascot for change when it comes to this particular scenario, because regardless of what you think about your incoming leader, change is change, and you still probably have trepidations about what's going to happen next. What's this person's style going to be? Maybe I've spoken in this case, and a lot of them have spoken to me in the office, and they probably know what I'm like in terms of in person, but it might be different under his leadership. These are things they might be thinking. So the first thing
mm,
I want to really do is set expectations as to what being under me is going to be like. Now we're in a
mm.
privileged position, Bill.
Yep.
You know, where we're not completely new to the company. Now, if you're completely new to the company and you're a leader that's brand new
Mm,
day one, week one, we've got a
mhm,
video that says day one, week one that you can go back all the way
mhm,
back when we first started this podcasting journey that you can look at. But if you're within the company, you've got a privileged position, you can start to set up lines of communication straight away. So, for one of the first things I've done is I've set up a Slack channel for the guys who are going to come into my team.
mhm.
And I've already started the banter, so to speak. Nothing serious. I haven't put any numbers in there. I haven't put any kind of work related stuff yet.
Yep.
I wanted to wait till the actual change goes through officially. But at the moment, it's just about banter. I want to get their buy-in and then make them already starting to feel like a team. So one of the first things I did was create the Slack channel and also start to get them to vote on what their team name's going to be. And we got some really
Yep.
fantastic names and are more hilarious the better, in my opinion.
It's gotta
Movie
be a fun.
quotes, that kind of stuff. Oh, yeah, 100%. Just bring in the vibes. Bill and I with a special vibes unit. Our next t-shirt possibly that we get is probably going to have the special vibes unit crest on it. And so we live those values. So I wanted them to just have some fun and
Mm,
know that my leadership style is not going to be one of absolute pressure all the time. I'm not going to be one of those people on your case straight away. In the
100%.
meantime, as well, I've started to plant the seeds of what I expect in performance as well towards the latter part of this week, like office attendance and all that kind of stuff, and having meetings in person, all that kind of stuff. And so I've started to put a little bit of the things, and I'll go through those a little bit more.
Mhm.
But I want to throw you first. But what have you put into action, if anything, in so far this week, and
Yeah,
your
yes.
more
I
experienced
guess
gang?
I'll start with the purpose and why for me. Now, as mentioned, I've taken over a very experienced team. A lot of them have been there
Mm,
for quite some time. They're very good at what they do. They're all the higher series of consultants. All of the people in your team, if they get stuck, will be leaning on the people in my team, right? Like that's where
mhm,
we're at.
mhm,
And as mentioned, their previous leader was also very knowledgeable, knew literally everything. She was the person I would go to if I was stuck all the time. And so obviously it's
mhm,
quite a big change for them. So there's kind of two sides of the same coin, actually, is like the main purpose for me. And it very much depends on my one-on-ones and conversations I'll have next week. And it depends on what
mhm,
that person individually wants from their career. Because some of them are in that role, they've been in that role for ages and they love it. And they absolutely
mm.
do not want to change the role they're in, and that's what they want to be. Some of the others are looking to progress their career. And so very
Mhm,
much for me, the intention going in is to let the people know who want to stick around. That is my job, is not to come here and rock the boat. Like, I'm not going to come in and start telling them what to do and how to do it, because they already know what to do and how to do it. They're already
mm,
excellent. That's why they've
mm,
been put in that team. The other side is making sure that the people who have career aspirations know that just because they've got a new leader doesn't mean that I'm not going to be coming in and prioritizing them and their careers first. Like, that is something that I'm going to be
mm,
really passionate around, is just making sure that they're getting that exposure. I don't really know if they've been getting it previously. I'm not going to say they are or not, because
mm,
I genuinely don't know. And so it's discovering that,
mm,
discovering what they want to do, and then discovering what I can do to help them be the best that they can be. That's my like main focus, main vision for the first couple of weeks, is to let everyone know that they're going to be supported, and again, that I'm not going to rock the boat. So that's like the overall vision. And then obviously creating a good team culture, good team vibe, those sorts of things. Again, with a special vibes unit, not to just harp on what you were saying, Jules, but obviously very much the same. Now, as for what I have done already is I haven't done a lot because I feel like a lot of my visions and goals are stuff that I need to have in a one-on-one setting. So I'll explain a lot of this sort of stuff to the team in the huddle, but then I'll really
Mm,
dive into the one-on-one. But I did set up a team chat and I set it up straight away. Now, we mentioned team
mm.
names need to be funny. We put a vote out to the team. The gun range is the one that won my teams because we're full of weapons. That was the idea. What did you
Nice.
land on in the end, by the way, out of
Yeah,
curiosity?
we got consultants with attitude riffing on the
Okay.
massive rap band, NWA, which is great. I've already done an album cover art
I love
on Canva. We use
it.
Canva for Disrupt Leaders, so I was like, man, might as well use this. Great, it looks really cool. So everyone was impressed with that. Got a lot of traction on the
You know what
Slack chat.
you need to do is you need to jump onto ChatGPT and get it to write you a rap that's to do with our workplace, but then like to the lyrics
Mate,
of like Straight Outta
that
Compton or something like that. If you haven't already,
great suggestion, and I think I might. Yes, correct. I think that's going to be this Friday's huddle for
mate,
sure. That's a
there you go,
Friday huddle if I ever heard one.
mate.
So great
Absolutely.
suggestion.
Thank you, welcome. I'm on it. See, guys, this is
Yeah,
we're doing this stuff live. This is what we do with
yeah,
this Disrupt
yeah,
Leaders. We just come up with a
yeah.
special vibe unit. This is what it's all about. So
Mhm,
ultimately, that's pretty much all I've done. I have started engaging the team a fair bit, having a few jokes. Like we had Are You Okay Day the other day. So I popped in a thing around Are You Okay Day. Had a few
mm,
chats, sent a few memes on Friday, sent a few Friday vibes around the team, stuff like that. The other
mm,
thing that I've done is make sure that I'm set up for this week. I went and checked
mm.
because in our workplace, every person gets 3 huddles per week. And they're all at
Yep,
kind of different times. And so I sent off a bunch of things to make sure that they're all aligned, making sure that I can definitely Monday morning, first
mm,
thing, catch up with my entire team. So that I made sure that was all set up and organized. And then I just went through and plotted out all my one-on-ones. Something we've spoken about before, I think it's really important to make sure that sort of stuff is planned in your calendar on Friday. So everyone's got a vision. If
mm,
anyone has any issues or questions, they can, go around it. But then also I can include the agenda so that people know, okay, next Friday, I've got my very first one-on-one with Bill. What's that going to look like? This is exactly what
yeah,
it's going to look like. I'm going to tell you now. And I think when taking over a new team, and obviously like change is something they're fearful of, they have no idea what a
mhm,
one-on-one's going to be with you. I don't know about you, Jules.
correct.
I've had a bunch of leaders in the past, and sometimes one-on-ones are great. Sometimes you sit there going, oh, for God's
Mhm,
sake, got another one-on-one. This is a
yeah,
complete waste of time. And so I think it's really important that when you're setting out those
mm.
first one-on-ones to include that agenda. What do you think?
I don't want to sound cocky, but
Mm,
I feel like our one-on-ones are
yeah.
neck level as well. You know what I mean? So I'm quietly confident that our one-on-ones are going to be very different, usually compared to any other people that
Mm,
I'm getting from outside of this duo. If I'm
yes.
getting them, I'm pretty sure one-on-ones are going to be quite different for a lot of people. So they'll probably have that trepidation. Really good point you touched on before around the planning for this week. Yeah, I've done the same as well. Sent off just to get everything aligned as much as possible. There's some things that are still up in the air, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
But in general, yeah, get all the huddles out, the huddles time, book a room if that's required in your state, Zoom invites, all those different things, just get them out around agendas for each of those. We've piped on about this now
Agenda,
for
agenda,
this is our
agenda. Yeah.
10th episode. So we've got 10 times the piping around planning. By now, you should be planning like a absolute demon.
I love.
But yeah, sent all that kind of stuff out as well. The other thing I spoke about before was, start to set some expectations now in our business. There's been a change in terms of coming to work and all that kind of stuff is 3 days a week. Like a lot of business are in terms of the hybrid model. A lot of people do 2-3 days a
Mm,
week in the office. So
mhm.
starting to set some of those expectations. And the way I approach that is, I think the kind of point of difference that probably you'll find in comparison to some of the other leaders and the way they've approached that is I've gone up that goes, hey guys, for those of you who are on a hybrid contract, these are when our huddles are. I want to make those huddles as valuable as possible for you in person. So I'm open to suggestions around what you want to get out of your huddles. If you're coming into the office, what would make it enticing for you to come to the office? So getting
Yeah. Yeah.
their buy-in around what they think is going to be enticing. And the
Yeah.
second thing is just telling them, I am going to make it as engaging as possible for those meetings in office so that you find that value. Also, I'm going to reach out to, external stakeholders in the business that can maybe add value to you that are in the office. And you can
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah. I like that.
set up some in person, somebody from another department to come in and have a chat with us, etc. So those are the kind of things I'm already trying to set expectations around it going, okay, it's just not going to be a half an hour waste of my time at the start of the day. So there's no point taking the
Perfect.
train in an hour each way. I'm already starting to set some of those things up. And then the people respond going, oh, I still can't make it on this day. I make it on that day. I one-on-one have a chat with them going, okay, like completely understand. We all have lives. As a family guy myself, I completely respect that. What could make you, how can I help you
Yeah.
come in on these days at least? and what could make you change your mind around coming in on a Wednesday or a Monday or one of the days that we have the huddles. So I'm starting to have the things, and I've already changed a few minds around people going, "Oh, I can't come in on the Monday, Jules, because blah 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 blah." And I go, "Yep, understand. Talk me through that. What's the issue? Okay, can you come in on the Wednesday instead? Okay, yes, I can. Okay, so you can make one huddle. Fantastic." Or they've changed them. I go, "Okay, actually, I can't come in on the Monday. I'll
Yeah.
just have to do whatever." But I'm showing that I'm flexible. But here are also my kind of non-negotiables with certain things,
Yeah.
because obviously we've got communication from senior leaders and stuff that we need to make sure that we account for as well, which is the other nuance to getting a new leader, a new team, right? It's not all your own way. You
Mm.
can't just suddenly go, yeah, I've just got to do all this, you know what I mean? I'm
Oh,
just
yeah.
going to do whatever I want. You guys can never come to the office or work from home the whole time, all that kind of stuff. I wish I could say all those things, but I can't, because there's directive we need to follow as well.
For sure. Yeah, yeah. So I haven't really done a lot of setting expectations yet as with my team, as I mentioned. I will probably
Mm,
do a lot of that tomorrow morning. So Monday morning,
mm,
first thing, roll on in. That's what I'm going to do. One of the things that I'm really big on with setting expectations in the first huddle is around feedback and opening a dialogue of feedback. We spoke about this a lot last episode,
mm,
but I think the first huddle, the first group catch up is the ideal time to do that. And the reason that I think it's so important is
mm.
often I will do things, you will do things that will just annoy the team a little bit. Like maybe it'll be something that they're not used to. Maybe sometimes I'll
Yeah,
eventually see the vision, but sometimes it might grate on them a little bit. If I
yeah,
don't know, I'm not told, I'm just going to keep doing it. And I've given this
mm,
example 100 times before, but when I took over a team in a previous position, I used the word mate a lot. And one of the people came
mm,
up to me and they were like, I don't like it when you call me mate. Now, that's something that I can try to cut down on and make that conscious
mm,
effort. And it's something that's so small,
mm,
minimal effort for me, but it's going to mean that that's not going to nag and irritate at that person. Because the thing is, if I'm doing
mm,
something that irritates you day one, week one, I guarantee 6 months down the line, that is going to have festered into more disdain. And it's going to be one of those things where every little thing I'm going to do is going to trigger someone. Whereas
mm,
I'd rather they just come up to me up front and be like, hey, I want more reporting, less reporting, whatever the case may be. But I think it's important
mm,
for me to open that dialogue. Now, I'm not going to say, again, I've said this before, I'm not going to change everything I do as a team leader and be a completely different person. But I think just being more mindful of what people like, what people don't like, are going to help me shape those first couple of weeks, get everyone into a good
yeah,
routine and smooth over those changes a little bit. And so that's the plan for the huddle. I'm really, again, mentioning sure. Because the other thing is as well, I don't really know their previous leaders' work style very intimately. I know what it looks like from the outside, but I don't know what it looks like from the
mm,
inside. I don't know what coaching sessions were
mm,
like. I don't know what feedback was like. And if you're not
mm,
used to getting a lot of feedback, and then you get a leader like me who gives a lot of feedback, it can be quite confronting. I know I've
mm,
had new people join my team before, and obviously in part of our organization, we have to mark 2 customer interactions a week. But every time I mark a customer interaction, I usually tap on the person on the shoulder and give a bit of feedback, whether it's just that was great, or hey, I noticed you did this, you could have done this instead, stuff like that. But if you're not used to
mm,
getting it, I feel like some people really don't take that the right way the first couple of times because they think, oh, Bill's all over
yeah,
me. But I'm actually not. Like, I'm actually just like giving you, like, maybe you don't have to do it. Maybe it's just like one of those 1% of things, but it's just making sure that they're
mm,
comfortable knowing that's going to be coming their way. So just really setting expectations around that, I think. The other thing that I'm going to be setting expectations around is just like letting them know my workflow and letting them know that how I like to structure my week. For example, I don't know
mm,
how you typically run your huddles, but because we have 3, I tend to have one for each thing. So I have one that might be
mm,
a skills workshop, one might be just around updates and career goals, things like that, and then one for fun. And like setting that in motion, letting people know the expectations around what we're going to work on, and then trying to engage them to see what part they would like to have in that as well. Because it's not my huddle at the end of the day, it's their
mm,
huddle. What do they want to see? And so I think there's going to be a
mm.
lot of questions like that as well for the team. What about you, George? Do you ask a lot of questions like that first morning to open the forum for that sort of stuff? Or
Yeah, my tactic for next week is drip feed some of those things across the next few huddles, though. I'm
Mm,
conscious of not bombarding them with all this information straight away.
correct.
I want to use, if you have a 30-minute huddle, I want to use maybe the first 5 minutes to still do a little bit of, we've done a bit of get to know you because of the Slack. The other thing I've done is, and I want to reiterate in tomorrow's huddle around setting expectations, and I think this might work for you as well, Bill. So is we're in a scenario where we're getting an amalgamation of people from slightly different backgrounds coming together as well in terms of skill sets and
Yeah.
product knowledge, without spilling the beans too much in terms of what's going on. But the benefit, and I saw that as truly as a benefit, and this is what I've told my team so far, or my new team that to come, is that I will be reliant on you because you guys are the product experts across so many different products.
Mm,
Bill and I have experience working in one product channel so far in this business, so to speak.
mhm,
But we're now probably taking over people that have knowledge across multiple products, or at least they're specialists in one product that we're probably nowhere close to being a specialist on anyway. So I said, you know what, you guys we're going to have a true collaborative team atmosphere because we've got maybe a couple of people are good at this product and a couple of people are good at that product, and I want you guys to be the SMEs. Like when we're having a huddle
yeah,
and someone's going, "Hey, how can I do this?" I want you to take the lead and go, "Hey, actually, I worked in this department before and I've been in there for a couple of years now. This is how
mm,
we do it." And I'm already starting to create that kind of cross collaboration in terms of sharing the expertise. So I think, and what I told them was, we're truly all starting off on level footing here because there's
mm,
no one more or less experienced
mm.
within the teams. I think even in your team, in some extent, they are more experienced than you are, but maybe in terms of
Helping each other.
individually
Yeah, yeah.
amongst each other, correct. So I think that's a really good thing because then everyone's got the expertise they can bring in. Everyone can share what the experience is. And I think
Mhm,
bringing going when I first started in this product, these are the struggles I had, and they can run a bit of a session going, okay, this is how I circumvented those situations and all that kind of stuff. So I can give each of these people a limelight, which is awesome for me, and start to
yeah,
delegate
absolutely.
some of these early first
Mm,
few weeks of the huddles. I'm going to run at least one huddle where one person from that product channel is going to run. It doesn't have to be long, 10-minute. These are the kind of
mm.
tips and tricks that I can share with you guys around how you can handle these conversations with your clients.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a really good call out as well. I think we spoke about it a little bit in the Diary of the CEO episode. Giving people the opportunity to teach is something that's really
Mm,
powerful for them. It helps them condense and embed their
correct.
knowledge, gives them a great platform for their career development, something to add onto the resume, something to add onto their like year in review when it comes time to that performance rating, all that sort of stuff. I think
Mm,
it
mm,
really gives a fantastic opportunity. It's definitely something that I will also be doing is empowering the team to present a little bit and to own the things that they're great at. I'm taking over a team that are very experienced for a lot of very different skill sets. Some of them do certain
mm,
responsibilities additional to their normal role. And I'd love them to
mm,
share what that looks like with the rest of the team. Because a couple of them are
mm.
doing a lot of work for the team. And I don't know if the rest of the team appreciate or understand how much work that is as well.
Yeah.
So not only one does it enable them to share the responsibility, it also enables them to really give themselves a bit of a platform to go, man, I actually am really helping out a lot here. And I think sometimes giving
Mm,
someone that platform to call out the success, we don't do enough of that sort of stuff, I think, not just in
mm,
our industry, but like anywhere, right? Like anytime you can add a
correct.
platform to talk about the great work your people are doing, in my opinion, is something that we should be
Mm,
100% looking at. Now,
mm,
something else that I am really going to be doing this week, something that I think is very important, week one, observations. Now, I'm taking over a ton of people that I don't know. I don't know what they work like. I don't know what they're, I mean, they should all be pretty good if they're in my team, but they will definitely have things that they're better at and things that they're not. But how am I to know what that is without finding out myself? Not only that, I'm also
mm,
stepping into a team where I don't know a lot of the things. And also, the team I'm taking over has a whole additional functionality that the rest of the business doesn't have. And I also need to get
mm,
across that. And I think whenever you come into a new team, if you don't know fully inside and out the people and the product, there is no better way than just sitting in on as much as you can. I'll do a lot
mm,
of like call listening, live chat reading. I'll do a ton of just sitting in sessions with people whilst they're working so I can listen along live. Because I think
mm,
there's no substitute for that. I don't think
mm,
there's no, if you sit with someone for an hour, 2 hours, you will know inside and out what their good traits are and what their bad traits are. If you sit with them
mm.
for 1 or 2 minutes, 1 or 2 calls, they can hide it. If you sit with someone for an hour,
Yeah.
2 hours, they can't fake being someone they're not on the
Yeah.
phones for two
Becomes
hours. It's just,
tiresome, right?
it's too tiresome, right? And I think
Mm,
I've mentioned this before. One thing that I do love to do is sit with them for an hour and then let them go and then sit for an hour also listening in, but they don't know that I'm there. And then you can really
yeah.
see if they've held themselves together with duct tape for an hour, it, it all comes spilling out the hour after. I tell you that for free. But that's my
Yeah.
plan for this week. That's the main thing that I'm going to commit a significant amount of time to is just sitting with my people because I want to get to know them, but I also want to get
Mm,
to know their working styles because as much as my team are very experienced, I know for a fact that they've all got things that they probably still need to be coached on. Because when you've
mm,
been there for a long time and you've become part of the furniture, you tend to let a lot of bad habits creep in. And again, I
mm.
mentioned this at the start. I'm not coming in to completely rip everyone a new one and tear everyone up, but I am here to help them be the best that they can be. And sometimes just identifying and picking up those bad habits is the way to do that. So that's one of my key goals for this week, Jules.
I wanna pick on that a little bit, and I think this is where I'm gonna lead off is my first metric that I'm gonna be focused on is not actually a metric, it's a behavior, is quality. So because of the scenario we're into, and as you said before, we're going to be performing some new roles, and so what ideal metrics look like might not really solidify until probably a few weeks into the journey here.
Mhm.
So I think focusing too much on the metrics we've focused on before might not help. And this
Yeah.
might help you as well if you're new to a particular department as a leader, is
Mm.
just focus on quality to start off with. And I would argue you need to focus on quality anyway. You got to
Of course.
focus on quality throughout your leadership journey, because that quality is what's going to take care of those little other key performance indicators or metrics that you're working on. So one of my first things I'm going to say in tomorrow's meeting is I'm going to be focusing on your quality over the next couple of days, next week, but in general, and I'll start to build out and give them
Mm.
indications on how they're going in terms of quality and nothing else for
Yeah.
the moment. Just for the first couple of weeks, quality is going to be my focus. How
Mm.
can we stick to the frameworks that we have in terms of the interaction style,
Yeah.
and making sure that our clients are getting the best throughout this change, because everyone's going through a change. And
Mm.
sometimes when you go through a change, the first thing to drop off
Mm.
is quality, because people are just trying to hit
Yeah.
the ground running and they're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
really focusing on where they're running and how they're running.
Correct. Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely bang on. And I think quality is the best first focus. And I think regardless of whether they're a new team or a more experienced team, I am very confident that when I jump in and start listening to more experienced guys, in terms of the things that they're meant to be saying or doing on the phones or via live chats, I guarantee they're missing a lot of things because they're very set in stone.
Mm,
And so I think it's a really
mm,
good, easy, early first focus. The other thing that's going to be more of a focus for me as a leader, I
mm,
think, is really trying to get some quick wins on the board. I mentioned the fact that I'm
mm,
taking over quite an experienced team. I want to make them know that I feel supported and stuff like that. And I think the easiest way to do that is, for me, is in the very first time that I catch up, I will ask what their pain points are. It's something I've always done when
mm,
I step into that first one-on-one. What is it you like about the role? What is it you don't like about the role? Why don't you like it? And sometimes you'll get a few things that are completely out of your scope, out of your control, and so that's part of your job, deal with it. But sometimes it will be like small things. Oh, I don't like this process is inefficient, or it really annoys
mm,
me that I don't have access to this thing. And with things like that, I find as a new leader, if you chase that up immediately, get a resolution on that
mm,
immediately, and then you come back in and you're just like, cool, so I've got that sorted, just so you know. Very
mm,
quick, very easy way to get on their good side. And something if you can do like
mm,
early, like week one, sometimes you can make a relationship instantly that lasts forever just off the back of that, because in their
yeah,
mind, you're a person that gets results. And I've actually done this
correct.
already. I had one of the people in my team reach out to me. They're having some issues getting some leave approved. It just kept getting an error, and
Mm,
I got it done. Like, she sent it to me, and within 35 minutes, I got an email back being like, hey, I've had that organized and sent off for you. And so
mm,
immediately, massive brownie points. And the thing to note is people in a team talk. I guarantee that people in a team talk. I've got
mm,
Bill, and all he's going to be like, oh, I actually had a really good interaction with him. He did this for me, sorted it out immediately. Very easy way to get runs on the board, to get those brownie points in. And so that's something I look for a lot in the first week, any like quick wins, easy opportunities. Do you do anything like
mm.
that, Jules, or do you approach it in a different way?
I'm a big believer in getting 1% of quick wins straight away. It's a trick we use by a lot of brands in general. If you talk about the story about Uber, right? If is that one of the things they do really quickly is when you first started with Uber as well,
Mhm.
when you click on it, it shows all the drivers available in the area. Why do
Yeah.
they do that? Right? But it's because it gives you a pretty clear indication how much their brand is spread across that area really quickly, and it sends a signal to your brain, goes, oh, okay, I've got plenty of choice here, right?
Mhm.
Now, if you click to the brand and it just went straight to searching for a driver and doesn't show you all those little cars driving around, it sends you a different thing. It feels the same as calling a taxi company. You don't know how far the drivers are. You don't know
Yeah,
how many
yeah.
drivers in the area. You don't know how far to wait. So you're giving them that quick feeling of going, oh, this feels good. I know I'm going to get someone pretty quickly because there's 20 people in the
Correct.
area. It's the same when it comes to your leadership as well. You want to give people, especially when they're in the wilderness and they're looking at the unknown, they don't know what's Bill going to be like, what's Julian going to be like. Again, give them really quick ideas of what that's going to be like.
Correct.
If your values are, I want to look really accountable, that should be a value, but you want to be really accountable straight off the bat, then do things that make you look accountable at the very start. And that might not be,
Yeah.
as you said, Bill, like you've got a really experienced team. So that might not be
Yeah.
like earth-shattering things you can do, but you don't have to. You don't have to do earth-shattering things.
No.
It might be they've been chasing up some leave and they've not got any answers from HR or their previous leaders around what's happening with this leave.
Yeah.
They've got
Literally what
holidays
happened the other day.
booked. I'm uncertain. Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
And you might be the person that just, whether that's a yay or nay, whether it's good news or bad news, You're the person that just gives them the news, and
Yeah.
they've had no news until this point. And that alone, they go, okay, this
Mhm.
person is
Yeah.
all about action, and it's just not about looking busy for the sake of being busy. And that's what really important as well.
Yeah, no, you've 100% hit the nail on the head. And I want to add one thing to that. It is something that I'm a big believer in. It is something I talk about all the time. And if you're in a situation like mine, where you're about to take over a team that is way more experienced than you, or they're coming at you, you've moved to a new business, whatever it is okay to say that you do not know. Just follow up with, but I will get you the answer. There is nothing
Mm,
worse, especially for me. Imagine me tomorrow morning going into that meeting, someone asks me a question and I make up an answer to a bunch of really experienced consultants that go, nah, that sounds like bullshit. It is not going to
mm,
go down well. Instant loss of credibility across the whole team. It is so hard to
mm,
pull that back as well. If they immediately, much to
mm,
the opposite of what we are just saying, if you stress to them that you're not a good leader, you can lose the whole team in an instant and you're going to be
mm.
uphill for the next 6 months. But just
Yeah.
say you don't know. There's people who are so fearful of saying they don't know to a bunch of team that experience, people that experience. Just say you don't know and then go and find out the
Mm,
answer. Because I promise you this, if you say, you know what, that's a really good question, I don't know, leave it with me. And then 15, 20 minutes after the meeting, you pop an answer into the group chat, instant win. Because the team are like, okay, we can rely on someone like Bill. We can
mm,
rely on our leader, even if he doesn't have all the information, even if he's not as experienced as me, we can still rely on him. And I think that's so
mm.
important.
To make that more effective, especially in
Mhm.
our case, Monday morning huddle is your first huddle with your team. Plan out some of the talking points, I think.
Oh,
What do you
yeah.
want to get? What are the top 4 or 5 things? You might not get through everything, and that's fine. You might say, listen up, these are the top
Mhm.
4 or 5 things I want to get out of this meeting, and I want to really communicate with my team. And these are maybe the couple of things I want to understand from them as well, or whatever the case is. But it
Yeah.
just allows you to then have clarity of mindset in terms of what sometimes happens is when you don't plan these things, and I'm not saying plan every meeting to the nth degree, but if you don't understand your why, so to speak, we were speaking this before around what you want to show is in terms of your
Mhm.
intentions, then you can easily start to ramble or mumble, or when they ask you a question you're not so sure about, you might say, wait a minute, actually, let me think about that. And then you've lost it. You've lost credibility straight off the bat. They're just
Correct.
thinking then, but if you have clarity of mindset going, I'll tell them what I do know, what I don't know, I'll say I don't know. And you have that clarity of mindset, the moment they say something, go,
100%.
oh, that's a great question. I don't know. Move on. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'll get you the answer and you can move on with it, note it down on your book or whatever, or on your laptop, and you move on. But you got to have clarity of
Mm.
mindset, clarity of what
Correct.
you want to communicate within that first half an hour, first, and throughout your first one-on-ones as well. And I think also the other thing to that point as well is, if they haven't already, now Bill's handing over some of his people to me, but now the benefit of me and Bill doing this journey together, and all in general, we just talk quite a bit in the business together. So I know what's happening with these people, and in general, that's because they're in the same office as me. I've
Mm.
had really good touch points with these people, so I know a bit about them. But for the people that I don't know so much about, or they've had previous leaders and I haven't really had that many touch points, is handovers. Hassle those leaders for handovers as much as possible. And just and also make sure they're really coloring it well, in terms of, it can't be just, here are their metrics, good luck. I want a little bit more of, okay, what is their backstory? What do they have, working arrangements? Do they a little bit more? I want a little bit more about their personality as well. Obviously, I will find out myself as well. I'll ask questions and I'll get to know them 100%. It doesn't hurt though to just understand a little bit around what their dealings have been with their previous leader as well, going into, so you can prep a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree, and I'm gonna put an asterisk next to that agree, because I also don't heaps care about the handover document, if I'm being honest. Because I feel like, in my experience, like I have a very different way of approaching things to some leaders, and I find that when you take over some people's staff, sometimes they will have a very preconceived notion of the
Mm.
employee that ends up not being correct in my eyes. I've
Yeah,
seen it.
yeah.
I've seen it enough times. So I like getting a handover document. I like to know what the person's goals are, aspirations are, whether you think they're a good worker, whether you think they're. It's all very useful to me, but I don't put a ton of stock in it either way.
Oh, no,
I've
yeah.
definitely had employees come to me that the previous person's, oh no, they're a cold killer, they're so good, and it turns out they're actually just friends with the leader, and they just get on really well, and they're actually average at
Yeah.
their job. And I've also had the opposite, where people have come in and I've been told that they're absolutely terrible, and then I get them, and they're an
Yeah.
absolute freak once they get a little bit of support, a little bit of kindness, and a pat on the back
Mm,
here or there. So I
mm,
do agree. I agree with what Jules is saying. I do think you should hassle. I do think you should get those handover documents. But I would just use them as like a reference point. It's just a nice to have and nice to know before you go into the session, and then just ask a lot of questions. I think a lot of the reason a lot of people like handover documents is they don't want to go into a session, someone tell them how great they are, and you'd be like, oh yeah, you're fantastic, we can help you get that promotion, get that goal, whatever it is, will work for that, and then find out they're a low performer. For me, I don't really care, because at the end of the day, today, if you want me to help you push your promotion, it's like day one, I guess, you've got to prove to me that you deserve it as well. I'll push you for it, but if your results immediately start not backing it up, I'm immediately going to be like, hang on, we called up yesterday, you said you wanted to get promoted, and yet your results look like this the last week. What's going on here? You know what I mean? And so I think it doesn't matter all that much. For me, it's a nice to have, and that's all it is. I feel like maybe you just go off, King.
I agree with emotional language, like anything emotional, like I was saying, this person's the bee's knees, all that kind of stuff. I agree with that. I don't really care about that either. I think more what I was talking about was in terms of if you have a working arrangement, they've got leave coming up in the next couple of weeks, or all the kind of stuff I can't see straight off the bat. Like I want to know that kind of stuff. Like, well, I don't know, like this person starts and ends at a different time, and what's that about? You know what I mean? Obviously I can ask them as well, but then the way I'm talking about is sounding really prepared as a leader. I think if you're going into that first one-on-one or your first interaction with them with, hey, I can see you next Monday, you're starting at next time. What's that about? I don't want it to be like, oh, I told my previous leader. You know what I mean? I want to go and go, oh yeah, I already spoken to X and I can see you started at one-on-one. Is that like an ongoing thing? Talk me through that a little bit more. I would like your side of the story as well. I sound a little bit more
I do see where you're coming from. I think for me, the reason that I don't like that is this same thing. Like, it's great to sound pep, but I prefer just to go in and ask lots of questions and sound like I'm interested. Because you have all that information you're going in asking, but I'm going in being like, I'd love to know what's going on, and I'd love to know from you in your words what's going on. I'm not too worried about when everyone else is saying, I want you to tell me. And then I just ask lots and lots and lots of questions for that first one-on-one. And to be fair, just to the listeners, I don't think either of these styles are particularly wrong. I don't think that Jules' way of doing it it's a little different to mine, a little different to mine. It's not massively different. We're both still doing the same things. We're aiming for the same things. I think it's just what works for who. And that you and I are not the same human being, but we've said this before, you definitely are a little more organized, a little more structured than I am. I'm definitely more that chaotic good style of leader, right? All over the shop.
Oh no, don't get me wrong. I've got my fair share of chaos too, but yeah, 100%. There's certain things I prep for a little bit more.
Correct. But I think that's like our personal styles when it works for us. I think if you were to come in and go for my style of just asking all these questions, maybe you would come across, I'm not saying it would, I don't know, maybe it would come across more unprepared than when I do it. You know what I mean? Because we just have different styles and different work styles. So I think some of that for you listeners out there is to figure out what works for you. Do you prefer to come in and have that really prepared style where you know everything inside and out and then you're just checking against it? Or would you prefer just to go in and be really open and inquisitive and ask a ton of questions and get all the information straight out of the horse's mouth? And I think just have a bit of a think around which you prefer. Maybe it's somewhere in the middle. I don't know. But I don't think there's any wrong way to do it as long as you are inquisitive and asking those questions at the end of the day and getting that info.
Yeah, and I think the other thing I want to stress as well is please don't do a blanket approach of stuff. As we just established, right? Bill and I align on a lot of things in terms of the way we see things, but there's like little nuances the way we do things that are different. And that's fantastic. And also what makes it awesome to work together, because there's going to be times I go, oh, I think this, no, I think this. And like we can bring each other information as we go. But also with your people, it's the same as well, right? You don't want to do one way across the board. Like obviously there's going to be a few things like the way you run your coaching sessions, the way you run your huddles are going to have some similarities for sure. I get that. But I think with the one-on-ones as well, ask, as Bill said, ask them what they want out of their one-on-ones. Come from a pace of, correct. And I always say that to people. Sometimes I go to them when I ask this question and people go, oh, I don't know, Jules, what do you reckon? I go, it's not my learning, mate. Like, it's, you know what I mean?
Does it
like,
say Bill's one-on-one, or does it say your one on the title of the invite? Because I don't think it says my one-on-one.
We both do the same thing. We always write, say, if I'm doing a one-on-one, Bill, for example, and Bill's my consultant, I would write, Bill one-on-one. I wouldn't write Jules and Bill or whatever. Like, I wouldn't write any of the stuff because it is your session.
Yeah.
Correct. So, and then I think we both do that for a very similar intention, which is it is your session. We want it very clear. So when we come in and ask you what you want out of this session, we want your ideas. It's not so much about what I've done before. And once you start that journey, I can help you out a little bit and go, I'm thinking I want to advance in my career. What do you think has worked for other people that you helped advance career? Yeah, sure. We can do buddy. We can do this. We can do shadowing. Like we can do all these different things. I can give you the suggestions, but the initial why, the start of the journey has to come from you.
You're exactly right, Jules. And that is exactly why I call it that one-on-one. And it is one of the things that I will be mentioning at the start of every single one-on-one that I run. Because over the next fortnight, I will make sure I catch up with my entire team. That is, it's probably like the last major thing that I'll be setting up and making sure I'm doing. I make every single person. I'd love it all to be next week. I don't think I'm able to fit that many one-on-ones in next week.
No,
And so it'll be
same.
over the next fortnight. But that'll be the literally the first thing that I say. It'll be, this is titled your one-on-one, right? This is your time. If you don't have any idea of what you need to work on, I'll definitely help point you in the right direction. I'll definitely help steer that ship a little bit, but it is your session. Sorry, you're going to say?
And I think to add to that, I think you mentioned it like way earlier, but in case it got lost, is send the agenda ahead of time. Like I said, I've already sent my invites out. I sent it on Thursday night, I think, and the huddles I already sent like early last week, as early as possible. And those agendas that you said in there before as well. So just give an indication for those of you, you don't have to copy this, put your own agendas if you want to. But what I've straight away put for the one-on-one agenda is going, I want an introduction, talk a little bit around what you want in terms of leadership, what I personally value as a leader, and then what do you want to get out of your role, and also anything that you want to get out of coaching long term as well. So those are the kind of 4 things I've just put in that real loose. I know it doesn't sound really specific, but this is your first coaching session with this person, and you don't want it to be really specific either, because you probably don't have specific things to talk about yet. So I think those 4 minimum, I would recommend popping in there, make it your own, use your whatever language you want to.
Yeah.
But also, hopefully, these people have seen the Outlook invite pop up. They've seen that little agenda dot points in there, and they've already started to think about these things. So hopefully when you get into that one-on-one, you're not starting from scratch. You're not starting with the deer in headlights effect again and go like, oh, what? I don't know what I want out of the next 6 months. Hopefully they're already thinking about these things. You've already planted that seed.
Yeah, correct. And I actually think that's a really good way to approach most of the things you can have as a leader. It's something I do a lot. For example, let's say I've got someone in the team who I want to have a career conversation with. I think it's about time. It's been a couple months. I don't just turn it on them. I don't even put it in the invite. What I actually do is I finish the previous session by saying, hey, just so you know, we're coming up to 6 months since we've last had a career conversation. I'd love to sit down and talk about exactly what you've been doing, what you want to do, what goals you've got. So I'd love you to have a think about that between now and our next session. Gives them 2 whole weeks to really think about it. And if they've not been doing anything at all, it gives them 2 weeks to start doing something. I was just wanted to touch on that. But I do think you're right. And I think putting it in the agenda, letting them know, and then in that first session, I'll make it very clear these are your sessions. And I'll also set the expectation that if there are things that they want to talk about, to let me know ahead of the session. If you know that we're catching up on Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, I'd be like, hey, Bill, I'm really struggling with this, or I'd really like to focus on what I can do to support the team here. And then when it comes to our first session, it's much easier for me because I can come in prepared as well. It's not just about them being prepared for the session, because they should be, right? But I should be too. And if they don't tell me anything, I'll just come up with my own things.
Bonus tip here for everyone as well. Send a little summary. Doesn't have to be War and Peace, but after you finish that one-on-one, send a little summary. Now, some people do it differently. I sometimes just create a OneNote in the session. You might have a hub or something in your business that you use that, or send an email. Whatever the case is, as long as you communicate the dot points of what's spoken of in the previous meeting, it also avoids the next one-on-one being an absolute waste of time for the first 10 minutes. You know what I mean? Like it might be, oh, what did we discuss last time? Oh, I can't remember. You've already got that. And that can form your agenda for the next time as well. You can copy and paste that into your agenda. Go, okay, last time we discussed this, I really would want to understand how you've been tracking on those things. Hopefully you already understand those things. And so, send a little summary. Dot points, doesn't have to be paragraphs of anything, and get them to ideally respond in some fashion. Like it might be a Slack message going, here's what we discussed last time, and they just give you a tick. It doesn't have to be, Jules, I completely agree with this. I love you inside and out. Just agreeance around, yep, this is what's happened. We understand you're busy. I don't need you to write me a War and Peace back either.
For me on this is repeating a point that we made earlier with the huddles and stuff. But again, really important to make sure that actions are followed through. Now, chances are on the first one-on-one, you're not going to set a lot of actions for them, probably, but there might be some. If they've mentioned to you they're particularly interested in a certain career goal or whatever it might be, you might have said, oh, why don't you go and check out this article, check out this thing. I think it's really important to follow up with them the next day, be like, hey, how'd you go checking out that article? Because it's really important to start to set those habits for when you do start having proper coaching sessions. Like I really want to make it that every single time we have a one-on-one, the next day you're going to hear from me, rubber band effect, keep stretching that rubber band out to make sure it stays in shape. And I think that starts on the first session. And the same if there's been some actions, probably more likely you will have actions after the first one-on-one. I think there may be something that from those pain point conversations, they ask you to look into, whatever it is. Make sure you follow it up. make sure you get an answer within the same day if you can, if not the following day. I think crucial. Really demonstrate value as a leader, that if they give you an action, that you follow it through for them. I don't think there's a better way to get their respect early doors.
One more tip around maybe that first huddle you run is an exercise you can run is, what do you want our team brand to be? And you can also do it in your first one-on-ones with your individuals as well, what you want your brand to be. A really good exercise to start. Now, what I want to get out of this tomorrow in my meeting is I want to ask those questions. I want to get some key values as a team that we want to demonstrate. So it might be, they might say, we want to be known as the most collaborative team, or we want to be known as the team that just gets shit done, or whatever it is. Sorry?
Just weapons. They want to be known as weapons.
Yeah, weapons. Yeah. We want to be known as weapons, or whatever the case is. But you want real kind of tangible stuff that you can put on somewhere, on a wall somewhere. But essentially, what that does is then it creates a little cornerstone on every huddle, meeting, one-on-one you run, and what you're doing. Yeah. So if it's a conversation now you're having about coming into the office, for example, or whatever the case is, and one of the things I said was, we want to be known as accountable. How is not doing that or doing that thing demonstrating that value you just said you want to be known for? It creates really good kind of things that the team can bond around, and each one knows, okay, like we've promised ourselves, we want to be known for this as a team. Are we doing those things right now? And if it gets into a little bit of a negative attitude at times, and that does happens in the team, like things don't go your way and sometimes you're negatively, and you go, okay, let's put a pause on that. The next few things we do, how can we demonstrate the values that we wanted to demonstrate as a team?
I'll tell you this.
And then as a person as well.
I like that so much, I wrote it down. What do you want the team's brand to be? What do you want the team's brand to be so much, I wrote it down, because I think that is fantastic. It is something that I have just, tomorrow's going to be my brilliant idea that I definitely didn't steal from Jules. Not giving him any credit, doesn't deserve it, the dog. But yeah, that is something that I will 100% be doing tomorrow at the end of my huddle, I think, or at least towards the back third of the huddle, just being like, all right, so what do we want our team to be known for? Especially for my team, I'm pretty confident it'll be being weapons. I'm pretty sure it'll be being the best of the best, being there to support the other teams, those kind of bits and pieces. And I think if I can direct that towards support the other teams, it's going to be very good for me in the next couple of weeks, just to be like, we did say this was our brand to support the consultants.
I think it's really important. We talk about the why before. We spoke about at the very start of the episode. You think about brands and they suddenly start doing things that aren't in keeping with their brand. It shocks you massively, because they've just spent so much time building this thing. Just say Apple suddenly started just creating phones and stuff that just were made anywhere and everywhere. You can buy them on Temu. You can buy it, just against their brand values and what they stand for. They obviously want to be known as a premium product, and a lot of what they do is positioning themselves as a premium product. So suddenly they start doing unpremium like behavior. You're like, oh gosh, and you want the same for your team. So if you're setting like these are your kind of 4 or 5 in startup conversations, in Silicon Valley conversations, they call it your North Stars. They use this conversation all the time. If these are your North Stars and you're veering off that course, it's very clear within the team that you're veering off the course, and then you can start to facilitate those conversations and bring them back on course and start working towards those values.
Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely it. I think you're absolutely on the money. I don't know about you, Jules, but I think that is about all we have today. I think that's about us for today. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope that it's given you some clarity, some insight as to what Jules and I look for when we take over a new team. I think at this stage, the plan is to circle back to this in a couple of weeks' time to go over change management, what worked, what didn't work, and probably not like as focused as this, but run through the successes and the losses and stuff like that. I think that'll be a lot of fun as well. So if you have found anything interesting, or if the stuff that you think we've missed, or if you've got any great ideas what you would do when the team come in, please do drop a comment and let us know, because as always, we love to hear from you. We'd love your ideas. If you found this video super helpful, please drop us a like, drop some subscribe. It helps us a ton. It is unimaginable. And then eventually the shirts, more shirts. We've been talking about it for ages, but maybe eventually they'll become a thing. We've got some cool ideas, but we need the love and the support from you guys to help us.
Thank you so much.